Well, there are three key ways in which a brand store will be offering discounts. One, it will not be in the high rental market, high rental area, so they'll save on the real estate costs. Secondly, the fashion apparel will be of the previous season, so that will constitute about 50% of the offering. So it's season -1 will be the offering. And thirdly, some of the apparel will also be specially manufactured by Brand Factory, which also includes from the likes of Lee, Wrangler, etc. They will particularly manufacture for this Brand Factory. So these are a couple of ways in which they will be able to offer a 20 to 70% discount. But let's move on and invite our next corporate, Mr. Ashok Haldia, the MD and CEO of PTC Financial Services, joins us now on the show. Good afternoon. Thanks so much for joining in. Very recently, you sanctioned about 1,100 crore for 4 projects in renewable and 2 projects in transmission of power. How have the sanctions and disbursement been in Q4? Has it been a pickup compared to the prior years, and what should we expect in FY17?
No, I would, since the March results are yet to be out, but during the quarter and for the year 15-16, we have sanctions total loan worth 6,500 crores compared to 4,100 crores in the last year. And this includes 1,100 crore that you are talking about in the board meeting that we had in the month of the March. So our sanctions till the middle of the March, and the figures, those are in the public domain, is that 6,500 crores worth of the sanctions.
Okay.
So this indicates growth of something around 50%.
Mr. Haldia, what is the level of your loan defaults, if any, your bad loans?
No, as I stated at the time of the last quarter's performance interaction, there had been no NPA added in the December quarter, and our stress assets and the NPA at that point of time remained the constant as was in the earlier quarter. So there was no new additions made.
Okay. Is that because your loans are all very young at this point in time? Your projects have not yet reached commercial operation?
No, that's not the case, because most of the projects, particularly in the renewable space, they are in the commercial production. So about 40% of our projects are in commercial operations. And some of the cases that we have been talking about, which are standards, but the stress assets for the region of the RBI guidelines, that in case the COD extends beyond a certain period, you need to make a necessary provision.
So have you had such cases?
These cases would... Yeah, obviously, as we had explained earlier, there were cases where the COD was extended beyond 2 years or 3 years, and as per the RBI guidelines, we had to make provisions. These are the standard assets, and the project might have been delayed because of various macroeconomic reasons, and the project might still be viable. So there is no indication, there is no adverse remarks on the viability of the project, but because the COD has been extended, and what the RBI guidelines would require us to make the provisions.
Okay. So what is that proportion of assets where you had to make provision in spite of it being standard because of the delay in commissioning?
I would believe must be, I'm not sure about the exact number, but maybe around 3 to 4 or maybe 5. Exact numbers I am not be sure, but certainly between 3 to 5.
Okay. Your net interest margins went up in the December quarter to over 6%. Now that we're entering into a declining interest rate environment, for FY17, what would be the net interest margins you have comfort on, or you would be comfortable with?
No, certainly any infrastructure finance companies would like to maintain its NIM and the spread, but given that it's all depends on the market and the competitive forces. The challenge before us is that while we reduce the rate, we also constantly attempt at the reduction in our cost of borrowing. And in the last quarter, precisely that had taken place. While our yield had come down, our cost of borrowing had also come down. So what we are seeing, the new regime with the RBI's policy stance, if the transmission by the public sector or the private sector banks takes place, and then our cost of borrowing also comes down, then certainly it would affect both the yield as well as the cost of borrowing. But our constant endeavor is to maintain that spread and the NIM, and at the same time, depending upon the market conditions, and improve our ability to tap good project and the good promoter. We would not shy away from leveraging our NIM and the spread.
Okay, now what is your spread in FY16 and what do you see it in FY17?
No, we had the details up to December 15, and we had a spread of around 4 and the NIM of around 6.
And you see it around the same level in FY17, or will it be lower?
No, that would depend, because the interest rates are coming down, and also our constant efforts on reducing our cost of borrowing. But as I said, if required, we would leverage the NIM and margin for the high quality growth in our loan book.
One final question, Mr. Haldia, because of the Uday scheme, or for whatever reasons, are you seeing an improvement in the number of power projects, any increase at all?
What I would say is that there has been improved level of confidence in the developers, and also in some of the states there has been a better recovery of the dues, including for the renewable projects. The Uday scheme has been announced, is in the process of being implemented, and I'm sure it would yield good results in terms of the financial structuring of the DISCOM's balance sheet, as well as improvement in the operational efficiencies and the reduction in the cost. So it would be too early to say that there has been impact or salutary impact on the projects, but then certainly there are indications that it should lead to good results on the projects.
Okay, Mr. Haldia, we'll leave it at that. Thanks so much for joining in. So a few key takeaways. One, the sanctions have gone up by nearly 50% in the March quarter, at least till the middle of the March quarter, at 6,500 crore rupees. No word yet on net interest margins, but they're saying that they will leverage on the spreads as well as the yields in order to attract high cost deposits, etc. But time is slip into a very short break, but on the other side, we'll get chatting with Subir Bagadia of Choice Broking. So he'll join in with a few commodity trading strategies.